Hello, my friends, and welcome back to another video where today I'm joined by my good friend Chen. Say hello, my friend.
Hello.
So, Chen, what he's been doing quite a lot of research on recently is actually trying to see what these character names actually might mean, who they might actually link to with the cast. As in January, this article from Night Edge Media displayed to us all the character names and descriptions. So, Chen has been doing a lot of work in actually trying to puzzle put this puzzle together, haven't you, Chen?
Oh yeah. It's been not a lot of work, but certainly it's been a very interesting piece of like detective work to be doing. It's
Yeah, as
it's good.
because it's even if we don't know all these names, it's still interesting to see the descriptions. For example, as the first one is Eldian and is a
Yeah,
youthful and
yeah.
formidable young woman required for this complex role, and you must know who this is, right?
Yeah, I have my bets hedged on it being the Galadriel part, and
Yeah,
there's been like this l- list of roles, the descriptions. They originate also from an article by The Observer a bit prior to this. And they say that the LDN character is actually the main character. And, within the kind of cast that Amazon had set up, which seems to be relatively diverse, I should think that having a female lead would be, within their kind of agenda. Um,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that it
and,
fit
and
in quite
it's
well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a familiar character that people will know, and so there's I think they're kind of pitching the whole thing as a kind of backstory of Galadriel and possibly Elrond as well.
Yeah,
So that
exactly.
it makes sense from that point of view. Yeah.
And it's quite interesting to be able to with a heightened Shakespearean language. So that's a little insight to how maybe the chat and conversation might be like between the characters as well. But as we continue to Naldor, who's 20 to 27 Caucasian, dramatic role for a young male actor, intelligence and political savvy. So who do you think this might be?
Um. Well, the role of Neldor or Beldor, there are two roles that description is almost one to one the same, and it's the role that we hear is attached to Robert Aramayo,
Mm-hmm.
previously to Will Poulter. And ever since Poulter's name came out, people have been, casting him as Elrond based on his looks. And
Exactly.
looking at the description, it does seem, fairly plausible because the notion that he's, quote, a straight man in pairings of more outsized personalities. Elrond in this period is quite young, and he's the vice regent kind of Gil-galad. And so it makes sense that he would be, the kind of more everyman compared to the royalty that is Gil-galad. And so in that sense, its description does fit Elrond. And I think that's Elrond. And again, that's the character that we originally thought was going to be the lead role. The cast list that we have from Amazon, it starts with Arameo, of course, but that list is alphabetical. It goes by surname. But still, we've been told it's the main role prior to the role of LDN. And so I do think that this is like the Galadriel and the Elrond roles.
Great. And also again the
And it is
rhetorical
interesting.
style. Yeah, go on.
It's interesting that both roles are also action oriented at times, which makes sense as
True.
well.
As we know, Morphy Clark did say in an interview quite recently that she has been doing lots more physical work because she is quite skinny, as
Mm-hmm.
she did say. So, yeah, that also fits in as well. But as we move forward, there's Brat character. I don't think we kind of know who he is. Do you have any idea? Because I don't. Dramatic
Yeah,
duo.
I'm not quite sure that one. Part of a dramatic duo, capable of doing drama. He's one of the things that I think that distinguishes the elves in this list is they usually have like something that like with LDN it's timeless, eternal quality, and it's the same with other parts. Brack doesn't have that, and it's a
Exactly.
fairly older role. It says 35 to 45, so it could be a Numenorean role,
Yeah, so
something
far
to
all
that.
the ages are quite young, so it's interesting that we've got quite a more older character.
Yeah, you wouldn't think any of the elves, because Galadriel is really the oldest of all the main elf characters, with the exception of perhaps Círdan. And so
Yeah.
she's in her late 20s, mid 20s, it says. You
Mm-hmm.
would imagine that none of the other elves would be older than that. And so I would say Brack is probably a Numenorean character.
Could be
But we
possibly.
haven't.
As
Could be, yeah.
also the Shakespearean thing that I've noted quite a bit has come back up because later on that starts to disappear if even say the Tyra character, which is next. So who do you think the Tyra character could be?
That character, it says that it's the Markella Kavanagh role.
Oh yeah, it
And
did say
then,
that there. So that's at
yeah,
least
yeah, yeah.
confirmed one. But that's no
Yeah,
Shakespearean Crossy there, so that's quite interesting.
yeah. The notion ever since she was cast was, well, maybe she's Calabrian.
True
That's
that
kind of
yeah.
that's kind of been the sentiment whenever someone relatively young and kind of, you know, gently featured had come up in the casting discussion. And so I'm not quite sure that that's indeed the case. She is quite young, and if Galadriel is to appear in her mid-20s, it makes sense for her daughter to be quite young as well, to be like, it's a teenager role, the way it's described.
But
Have strength and maturity beyond her years, and so it could be an elvish character.
could be, yeah.
Uh,
But juxtaposing that, Era is a series regular female and 35 to 45, so a woman and a maternal female actor required for a comedic this time and dramatic role and a singing ability, which is quite interesting. So what are your thoughts on that?
that's one of those cases where we don't. Where I'm certainly not sure who it is. It may be an original character, but I do think I know who's playing that part. There's an actress in the casting called Sophia.
Sophia, oh.
Uh, yeah, last name is beyond me. It's something
Sophia
along the lines of
Numvati, that's her name. Sophia Numvati.
Nomviti. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a Persian name.
Hmm.
And I don't know why, but it sounds like her. And I do know that on her bio she has singing capabilities,
True,
so it
because she did
works.
do a lot of what stage in her early years when I was looking into her career, so that could play a role. And so far we have Markella Kavanagh, Sophia Namvati, Robert Armour, and Morford Clark so far. So yeah, those are all.
Yeah,
So as you continue, here's Oren, the series regular and male 40 to 60, and we think it says even there Joseph Marley, who is the I think Benjamin Stark from Game of Thrones, him
hmm
being cast as Oren, and he's established actor, and we can't say, oh, Joseph Molly is not an established actor because he is quite a good prominent actor, and he's also a villain, a pathos, and a
yeah,
ruling fallen nobility. So it really does seem like a Sauron description. What do you think?
yeah. I do think it's a Sauron description, like the fallen nobility. Sauron being, you know, essentially a fallen angel. It makes a lot of sense that it just sounds like Sauron, the sense of timelessness, which we usually associate with elves. Well, Sauron is also immortal, so it definitely it rings true. That I think that's definitely one that we can pretty. I
Yeah,
think. Uh,
confirm. Yeah. So moving on to the next one is, I don't know how to say this, Kalinon, series regular.
some of the names have a kind of elvish ring to them, even though they're obviously code names.
Code names. Yeah,
But they
we
do
forgot to
sometimes.
say this that these aren't the confirmed names, but like more code names. But the more interesting things that we're seeing here, the descriptions to try and pinpoint and match together all the characters which are either elves, Numenorians, or men. So that's what we're trying to do here as well.
Yeah. And I do think some of these characters are, we have men, we have Numenorians, we have elves, we have Sauron. We'll probably have some of the, like natives of Eriador in there as
Yeah,
well. I wouldn't
and
be shocked if the Ira role is that. So definitely, yeah.
and this one is all ethnicities. So do you think this could be a new character that's been made up by Amazon? Because
Could be. I'm looking through some notes that I have on the matter, because I do recall that I had a concept of who Calanon could be, and no, it wasn't. It was one of the other names that sounds a bit like it, but no.
But of course, we don't know
Um,
all of them right now, anyways.
yeah, the Byronic hero aspect of it. It could be. I don't know. It could. The all ethnicities thing is, I think, a little bit misleading, because some of the roles state specifically that they're having a diverse, is the term they use, man or woman in mind. This role just said you submit all ethnicities, and so it could still be an elvish role or something. Although again, it is one of the older roles. It does contain a sense of agelessness. Could be Círdan, I don't know.
But yeah, that's quite a good shout, yeah. And also, as you moved on, Eric, Caesar, male 30 to 40, quite charismatic for a dramatic leading role with comedic elements, so which links back to earlier with the other character that has comedic elements. So it also a quite significant physical component and a real range. So what do you think about this?
It's one of the most, vaguely described roles. It could be actually a very important role that they're trying to kind of play down.
Yeah. But it is quite interesting that has a significant physical component. So from that, we could start maybe draw from that. That's the only real thing we can draw, because comedic elements does not help as much. That's probably what they're going to be implementing into the character. Maybe not what Tolkien fully implemented, but we can leave that one to the side, because that's not a full description. But one that does have a big description is Beldore. Series regular male, 20 to 24, early 20s, dramatic role, and lots of intelligence. So have a go at this. Who do you think it is, my friend?
This is a tricky one, because it reads almost exactly like the Naldor role. In fact, in other forms of this list, it doesn't list Naldor in this. It lists Beldore, and so it reads like Elrond again. But I have no idea. Like, some people would say, well, the similarities in the names and the description would suggest that one of these is Elrond and the other is Elros, but that it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that, because, of course, this is a series regular, so we know it's not going to be like a prologue or something.
Yeah.
And yet, there's nothing much of note happening around the time of Elros.
That was really early on in the Second Age.
Yeah, very, very early on, and so it's a complete conundrum. It could be just an issue with the list, kind of like redundancy type thing.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But as you move on, Asta, ethnicity again, a major role for an ethnic character, for a well-established and powerful female actor in her 50s, early 60s, high-ranking lady. Who do you think?
This, I'm pretty sure I have a pretty good idea of who this is. I think it's the Numenorean Queen, Tartalparian.
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, it reads, with the possible exception of the age, which I think they'll play down anyway, because I have a pretty good idea of who they cast. I do think it's the Queen, which it is interesting, because the role of Tartalparian on the page, you could say, is a fairly antagonistic role, because she doesn't want to intervene in favor of the elves. And yet, the role isn't described as in any way antagonistic. It's described as reserved. It's described as showing grace and humor and real stature and all that. So we're looking, I think, at a relatively sympathetic take on the character. And it is a diverse female. And I think that's... they have a really good actress, actually. Nazanin Boniadi.
Oh, yeah.
She's not as old as the description calls for, but she's the oldest of the actresses.
Yeah, that
on
is a
the
good.
cast.
And I think with prosthetics and makeup, you can make someone, you can age them quite dramatically as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we have this one pretty well in the bag, and it has a lot of implications for the show as a whole because Numenorean Queen is going to have a Persian look, or just a nondescript kind of exotic look, like a Queen of Sheba type thing.
Yep.
And it could be that this would be an overriding aesthetic for the whole of Numenor, so that's already one notable thing about it. The
Yeah.
other is that it's a series regular role. So that would seem, it's not definitive by any means, but it would seem to fly in the face of the notion that the show will have, time leaks within it.
True, yeah.
I do think we'll have, we'll focus on a specific period for a long period of time with this, which is good, I think.
Yep.
It's much more.
A very good summary. That could be the case. But as we move on to the next, let's go through these ones quite quickly. So LOTR, Cole, and Kari. So they are same. First one, male, late series regular, fantastic role. So who do you think that is? LOTR.
The LOTR part, it's Caucasian part, so it could be strong and powerful.
I don't mind any.
Yeah, it is a Caucasian part, but it doesn't read Elvish, and so it could be an original character.
And I don't get the options part. I don't know what that means either.
So the options, you mean?
Yes, it's up to 6 options. It's been said quite a few times.
Yeah. I think because this is a description that goes out to casting agencies, it's to do with the number of actors that they will, have a second audition with, or that sort of thing. You naturally you read a lot of actors, then you narrow it down to a small amount, and then you choose one. I think that's what it is. It's across the board. It's between 5 and 6 options each.
Okay, that makes sense. And then
I think, I'm not sure.
Yeah. And then for Cole, you said could be Celebrimbor or Gilgalad. So explain that process of how you got to that conclusion for Cole.
Well, it is a Caucasian role. The age of around 20s, it fits with both Gilgalad and Celebrimbor are younger than Galadriel, actually, than Galadriel. And so if she's in her mid-20s, you'd figure that for them to be in their early 20s would make sense. And has the weight of the world on his shoulder, certainly fits Gilgalad being the High King.
That's a really
but it also kind of fits Celebrimbor in the sense, he's a very burdened man, I think. And the old soul thing, the troubled, the mercurial, all speak, I think, to the possibility of it being Celebrimbor. But it can also be Gilgalad. Some of these parts, Gilgalad is not a character that we know very well, and so Amazon could do many things with him.
Exactly.
And so they could do him like this. It's fairly, could be.
But now this Kari role, series regular, also a diverse role, 30 to 39, quite specific. So what do you think of that?
That could be an original role. I'm looking through some of my notes, actually.
Yeah, because self-sufficient single mother to a teenage boy, beautiful, proud, clever, and charming. A village healer.
I do think, because of course, if we think of this in terms of storylines, we have the Elvish kind of storyline which goes on in Lindon and presumably Region.
Yeah.
I mean, if we were to have Celebrimbor, it certainly plays out in the Region. And we have the Numenorean storyline, which involves, at least in part, Numenoreans, handling with the native people of Middle Earth, which they kind of like it's a kind of a tempestuous, slightly complicated relationship, which speaks a bit, I think, to colonialism, that sort of thing. And I think we will see a number of original characters, which
That is
will
true,
be
yeah.
the Middle-earth natives, so we can see a part of the story through their eyes as well. And this
Yeah.
might be one of those roles. There's a number of roles here that read like one family. I think we'll have like a kind of Dunlending type family.
Yeah, for me,
which
the make or break for this show is the characters that Amazon actually make up, and seeing if they are Tolkien-esque characters and see how they fit in within Middle-earth. So that'll be really interesting in how they actually come about and actually do that. So yeah, continue. My bad.
Yeah. I do think that there are a couple of roles here that read like a family, and I think they'll have like a whole small family of these characters. Could be.
Yeah, now going on to Shay, series regular, female, Caucasian. This sounds like a normal role that we can't. Do you have any ideas? Because a physically strong, pragmatic, clever young woman again. So, any ideas?
This one, we've talked about Tyra being the Celebrian role, and I think this is another competitor for the same role because, she's about the right age, I think, and she is described as having a family and being politically minded, which presents a particular challenge. The political leanings within our own family become increasingly divided. Now, we haven't had anything that reads terribly like the Celeborn role, but we're obviously going to have him.
Yeah.
And when you have a married couple in a story like a TV series, especially when one of the characters is your lead character, you don't want it to be too harmonious, the relationship. Of course, for certain periods of this time period, I believe Celeborn goes away to Lorien, I think. Galadriel stays in a region or something along like they're not always together. So it does make sense to have some kind of like debates within their family. And to have Celebrian kind of be in the middle of it makes a lot of sense. So this could be also a potential Celebrian, I think. And it is Caucasian role, which makes sense.
And then this Kyrin, I think we narrowed this Kyrin role quite down a lot because the series regular male, open ethnicity, but the 12 to 15. So this could, Tyra Muhammedin, could it be him? The Kyrin
could
role.
be, yeah. We have Tyro. We have, was it Tyro that was shooting on location near the shore? I think so, wasn't it?
Oh no, that was Ismail Cruz Cordova.
That was Ismail Cruz Cordova, yeah, and so it could be him as well. I think.
Yeah,
kind of works because that is another role that has the distinction, like the Asta role, being played by a diverse male, and he's the son of a widower, which kind of works for the role of Menastir.
Could be
nephew of the Numenorean Queen, because he's the son of Isilmo. We don't know a lot about, but obviously, like, he has produced an heir. It could be that they are playing him as the widower, and so this could be the Menastir role. Although the small town life doesn't really play up with that.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one in many ways as well. So. Then also it's a diverse male as well. So
he's the son of a female. Now I just recalled it. He's the son of a female. Like his mother is a widower. So no, I would say probably the Menastir role is another one. Because if we are to have Menastir, we could get also his father.
True.
And so yeah, so maybe that's that one. I think we're barking up the wrong tree. But it could be an original character. Something. But
it is a series regular. Life. It does say in capital series regular and up to 6 options again. So it does look like an important character.
Yeah.
But should we move on now to handsome? Because I think yeah. 44 to 50, warm, charming, weathered, sad eyes. So it's physically demanding traveling community. So that is the quite interesting part, isn't it?
Could be, just occurred to me really, the part could be Caucasian or mixed ethnicity. That actually could be also, if you're being really, really, really clever, you could say that a traveling community could be, Numenorean sailors. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I do think it's probably more likely that this is an original role for a Middle Earth native.
True. Yeah, more on land, I feel like, because this with a charm and twinkle, concealing his sadness, his family has to cover for him as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
actually do not think he think about it. Family has to cover for him. His love, he loves his family and his strong practical life. Do you think he could have maybe left on these Numenorian ships, and like maybe he's gone onto them, and he's not maybe naturally part of the actual navy, so he's been concealed by his family to join the navy, so he's pretending to be someone he's not. That just coming to my head right now randomly, but it's quite
It
interesting.
could be, could be. There is
Yeah,
a role. I mean, in the story, there is a Numenorean captain, Kiriator, I believe is his name.
yeah,
Is kind of the warlord for Minaster later on. It could be that. I don't know. Could be.
could be. And then moving on to Galanion, I don't know how these names could be said in so many ways, but a male series regular, possibly recurring, and character portrayed in the late 40s, early 50s, man of elegance and a leader of his people, and he's wise, but he's also pragmatic to a fault. So he isn't afraid to manipulate for a greater good. So who does this remind you of, or do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's I actually had it early on as a possible Gil-galad in the sense that he's the leader of his people. Again, we
True.
don't know quite how, we don't know quite how they'll play Gil-galad, and so the whole isn't afraid to manipulate for the greater good thing. He could do that or he could not do that. It really is an unknown. But that could also be. I'm hesitant to say that this could be the Minaster role because I would expect that Minaster character he's quite, or should be, fairly younger than this. So that's also, and it also is too old for Gil-galad, come to think of it.
Could be.
Gil-galad is younger than Galadriel. But again, with the age thing, even though we know that Amazon must be beholden to canon by the Tolkien estate, at least in the broad brushstrokes of the chronology, it could be that they're playing the ages up a little bit. It could be that the Gil-galad, being the king, would be cast older than his age in terms of Middle Earth history would suggest, simply so that we can have a believable kingly figure. So it still could be, but otherwise,
That, yeah.
I have no idea. Yeah.
But then moving on to the last two is Derek and Cora. So series male and a female. First one, Derek is methodical, thoughtful, and an immersive actor. He's initially childlike, but then there's a physical role as well, and non-verbal abilities are going to be required. So, what do you think about this?
That's very, it's kind of vague. Could it also be an option for Celebrimbor? I'm not sure. It's too old, I think. But could be an original character. It could be again a native character.
And then the final one is Cora, a practical, solid, and earthy, and her husband has health problems.
Yeah,
And
that obviously puts elves out of the equation. I think I'm pretty sure about that one, that it's not an elf. I would also say that it's probably not a Numenorian either. It doesn't
large
sound like
family.
it. Yeah, it
Oh, it
doesn't
says here
read very
anyways,
Numenorian.
demanding traveling community.
Yeah, which we have another character in the traveling community. So,
From here,
like I
we're
said,
starting to see like storylines come together. What we might be seeing in different timelines and storylines of the show. So we've got a large traveling community. Then we have the Numenoreans. Then we have, of course, we could have Celeborn and then Galadriel and that area with a region, and then also so many other places that we could be seeing with also Gilgalad in Linden, for example. So we're starting to see like all
yeah,
these places that could be depicted in the show.
yeah, it's a big canvas. However you look at it, it's very, very big. Yeah.
But
And it should be said, in relation to this point, and seeing that we've gone through the list, this isn't like all the roles. We know for certain that there are more.
exactly, coming out
Um,
soon, hopefully. More actors
yeah,
coming out, yeah.
Simon Mireles, I think. We know that he's been cast in the show, and we know the character name, code
Herwin.
name that is, and it's not and it's not any one of these. It's a completely other character. So this list isn't the whole story,
List.
and so
And maybe some of the new actors that might be released soon might fit into this list as well. So we don't have, of course, we don't know
yeah,
all of it. Some of them we can link some actors to, but some we are debating on whether which the character description matches the character from Tolkien's works. But overall, I think we've
Mhm.
done a pretty good job, I think.
Yeah, it's been very. I like that kind of detective work anyway, and so yeah, that's
Your work's been quite detailed, and we've been able to go through this whole list in quite well and actually try and figure out altogether how this show might portray all these characters in different places and what this could mean. But thank
mhm.
you again, Ken, for coming on and actually helping me with this video, because I know I wouldn't be able to do this without your knowledge on this. So thank you.
Not a problem. It's fun.
And hopefully we can do some more videos in the future as well. But thank you
Oh
for,
yeah, absolutely.
yeah, hopefully. So thank you to everyone for watching. I really appreciate it. But until the next video, my friends, goodbye.